So I was chatting to producer Steve
Yeah.
just before we started, and he was saying that the studio is attracting quite a lot of coaches and
Oh, is it?
people like that for some reason. Don't know why.
It's your influence.
Maybe I don't know. And but yeah, he was saying that he'd had a couple of sessions because coaches are offering him sessions. So he'd had this session, and he discovered what his problem was. And I was like, oh, I didn't think you had a problem. And he goes, well, neither did I. But you know, but he was saying that basically his problem he discovered is that he's come from quite a corporate background, where he was immersed as a technician in quite a large studio, 9 to 5, and he just head down, headphones on, doing his thing really, really well. And he's come here to set up, this studio business. And he said, and I've realised now that I've got to make this transference to being a leader, which means I've got to multitask. And immediately,
Yeah, the red flag's up.
both eyebrows. So we got into quite a discussion about this because I'm we're at that time of the year where we're starting to think about goals, planning, that sort of stuff. And we actually did a session last week on goal setting the vision for 2023, and did my one pager with the group. Nice number of people in the room. Everyone was really tired because they were thinking. But we really started to dig down and dirty into why they might not achieve stuff and all the rest of it, to the point that next month we're going to focus on, procrastination and managing themselves more effectively and stuff like that. And the kind of thought of being overwhelmed and trying to do everything all at once came up last week, and as it did with Steve. And one of the things the analogy that I used with Steve, and I used it in the room as well, is that the trouble with multitasking is that you are basically interrupting yourself. And if you accept that, because there's a lot of science behind this, that when you are interrupted from full flow, so immersive work, if you like, deep work, it can take up to 20 minutes to resettle yourself, get back into it. And we're not in a world now where somebody knocks on the door once or twice an hour and you get frustrated by a co-worker. Your phone pings for a dozen different reasons an hour and the rest. You've got email. People have got email notifications on their desktops. They've got their WhatsApps on their desktops, Slack notifications coming in all the time. All stuff that's designed to make us more productive, more efficient. But actually all it's doing is constantly interrupting us from doing the work that matters. And something that came up in the conversation last week, in the room, was that we had this discussion on a scale of 1 to 10, how focused were you on the day-to-day stuff that just cropped up, and on a scale of 1 to 10, how focused were you on the end game, on achieving the vision? And everybody, without doubt, was focused on what was thrown at them day to day. Number of reasons why that could be. The vision's not powerful enough. The vision's not strong enough. The vision's not in front of them enough to remind them of where they're going. And somebody very smartly said, it's like, I don't have a North Star. So when I get lost, it takes me ages to kind of work out where I'm going again. And I think it's then too easy to allow ourselves to get distracted. And the trouble with multitasking specifically is it's a kind of made up. It was a marketing piece by Filofax in the 80s. Multitask your way through the day better by carrying this black folding and keep control over all the things that you've got to do.
AKA buy our product.
Buy our products. It was the yuppie generation, and if you're not doing 15 million things at once, you're not. You're not productive, and it was a way of working that was perpetuated. And I was saying to Steve that a great way of thinking about multitasking is driving, because it's something all of us, or most of us, do, so we can relate to it. Okay. And when you drive, you're doing, even autonomously, you're doing two completely separate functions. Okay, so when you get into a car, you're immediately multitasking. And the worst thing about it is that your inner, like, chimp brain, or your lizard brain, is in instant competition with your more modern functional brain. Because you need the modern functional brain to go, how much do I press the pedal? How do I turn the wheel? How do I change gears? And your lizard brain is scanning for danger. That's what it does. It looks in front of you, to the side, and it looks for danger. It looks for kids jumping out in front of you. It looks for light changing red, so you have to stop. It looks for people crossing the road at zebra crossings at the flashing amber lights. Okay, it looks for cyclists coming up in your blind spot, and that's a real fear spot. So you're in this fight or flight mode, and as soon as you allow the chimp brain any kind of license to do its job, it overwhelms the the more modern functions that we have, such as speech, such as counting, such as controlling a mechanical vehicle. Okay, so you're already, being still in a car is easy. As soon as you're out on the road, you're distracting yourself by your chimp. Then you add texting into the mix. Okay, so you're not doing two tasks, you're immediately doing three tasks. Two fairly autonomous tasks, the texting and the driving of the car.
Hopefully nobody is texting and driving.
People do it,
Yeah, of course they do.
Or they're checking the football scores or whatever.
Yeah.
But you're doing two highly complex modern functions that are in complete competition with survival mode. And it doesn't work. That's what that's why it doesn't work. And that's why multitasking doesn't work. Now, when we're at work in the office trying to do stuff as well, when you're multitasking, you're trying to concentrate on two different things or three different things at the same time. I can't write copy and listen to music that has lyrics, because I just end up writing "Papa Don't Preach" in the middle of my copy. Tell my age here, okay? Because I'm competing with myself, and the easiest thing to do is to immerse it, and it just doesn't work. So multitasking is this kind of really, it's a dangerous thing. Okay, you're unlikely to crash while driving your chair at your desk. I get that. And you're not having to compete with survival mode when you're in the office working. It's a safe environment. But you are constantly self-interrupting, constantly. So you never even get to the opportunity to get 20 minutes of immersement back. You don't, because before you get back into the 20 minutes, that gap, you're interrupting yourself again by the next task that you're choosing.
So you do multiple things mediocrely as opposed to one thing really well. And
there's another piece of data that shows that for every task you add, you lose 20% of efficiency in it. So if you've got desktop notifications popping up, you've got a Word document, and you've got your emails open, you're losing 20% times 20% times 20%.
Right.
Doesn't make you very effective, does it?
No.
And so I was talking to Steve about that, and then we got into talking about what makes a great leader and stuff instead. But I think this multitasking thing and our ability to get stuff done, get the right stuff done, is really interesting. It's something that comes up a lot. I think that it really does help to have a strong anchor, a deep-seated desire, lack of another term. Something we talked about at length last week in the locker room meeting was this principle of anchoring our personal goals, because they're emotional, to the business goals. And we talked at length about how will you feel, what impact will it have on your life, your friends' lives, your partner's lives, your kids' life, if you don't achieve your business goals. Now, if you haven't anchored your personal outcomes to the business goals, there is no impact. But if you have, there is an impact, and therefore you're more likely to turn up and not be present as in presenteeism, but be present as in focused. Yeah. Does that make sense? Yeah. To achieve the goal? Because if you've decided that, do you know what, in 3 years' time I want to move house, and 30 miles down the road, and it's going to need an extra 500 grand's worth of mortgage, because we want more land and horses, whatever it is. I'm just making stuff up here. And you tell all the kids that this is what's happening and this is the goal, and you pick somewhere, and you start looking at villages and stuff like that, and your business doesn't perform, and therefore you can't achieve that goal. That's got to hurt, hasn't it?
Yeah.
That's got to hurt more than the business not performing, but you've still got a house, and you're still living where you are, and you're still quite happy.
But most people wait until they have got the money before they start that exploration of let's go and see what there is.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It is interesting, because there was a clear divide between those people who had set long-term visions and short-term goals, who had achieved them and felt satisfied with their progress, versus those people who didn't know what the vision for the business was all their lives, hadn't set any goals, and therefore were sitting there scratching their heads going, I don't really know if I've had a good year. It could really, really clear, distinct divide. It's fascinating.
Very
fascinating. And I just think it's, I'm not saying that multitasking is the solution, stop multitasking and you'll achieve all your goals. That's not what I'm saying here. But I do think there's a really important point with getting away from dealing with the stuff that's thrown at us.
Well, there's a difference between reactive and proactive.
That's better than what I said.
I don't know about you, but I always find that if I write myself a list, whether it's the day before or even the morning of, what do I want to get done today? I get far more done than if I just go through the day going, right, what's next?
But let's take that
one. I've got something
to focus on. But let's take that on one step further. How often do you base that list on looking at what your long-term vision is and saying, right, in 3 years' time, I'm going to remind myself this morning, in 3 years' time, this is where I want to be. I don't really know what that looks like. It's a little bit hazy. I get that. There's no detail on it. Yeah. But I do know that if I achieve this goal over the next year, it's going to take me one step towards that vision. Right. So this quarter to achieve that goal, I've got to be in this place. This month to achieve that quarter's goal, to achieve that year's goal, I've got to be in this place. So today, my list is made up of things that, whilst may not have any immediate impact, will move me towards that 3 to 5 year vision. Because what we're battling against is instant gratification, which is what all the social media channels are built around, likes and all the rest of it. Yeah. So are you building, and it's a genuine question, that list that you talked about, is it a list that's going to make you feel good because you've achieved something today and you can tick it off and you get that hormonal buzz?
Yeah.
Wrong
word?
It
is hormones. Yeah, okay. Because you're setting off adrenaline.
Endorphins.
Okay. And all that kind of stuff.
Or is it a list made up of stuff that's not going to trigger endorphins because maybe it's a little bit dull, not that exciting, and you did exactly the same thing yesterday and the same thing the day before and the same thing the day before, it's a bit boring now, but is going to move you towards that long-term goal?
My personal belief is that you should spend an hour a day, maybe more if you want to, be a minimum of an hour a day doing something for that long-term goal. So you might only make an hour's progress, but you're doing an hour a day. And the rest of the day can be taken up doing your immediate stuff.
And what constitutes immediate? Give me some examples.
Emails, responding to requests.
So how many emails have you had from somebody saying, hey, Shirley, how can I help you move you towards your long-term goal today?
None.
Versus how many emails have you had saying, can you do something for me, Shirley?
All of them. That's not the point. The long-term goals come from what I want to achieve in my business.
So what if you were, so to take your analogy, what if you were to take 5 or 6 hours a day to work on your long-term goals and allow an hour for the emails and everybody else asking you to do stuff for them? How much quicker and surer and more confidently would you achieve that longer-term goal?
Well, obviously 5 or 6 times more quickly.
Even more deeply
But
or quickly?
probably at the expense of your immediate business. And that's the balance that you've got to try. And that's why I said a minimum of an hour. For some people, you might only be able to spare an hour that day, and another day you might be able to spare 8 hours. But if you plan to have at least 1 hour, and you do that, I would say first, before you get embroiled in everything else, then you know that you're always making progress towards that long-term goal, as opposed to what most people do, which is they've opened up their emails probably while they're still in bed, had a quick scroll of them. Their brain is immediately into firefighting and responding, and how do I do this? And I need, when I get to the office,
you've already
on my desk,
distracted yourself before you even start.
Whereas people that I've seen who make really good progress, first of all, make a plan for the day, either the night before or at the very least they have a week's kind of plan where they've got blocks of time split out, but often they'll do it the night before or the very early morning while they're having their breakfast or whatever, and they do their long-term stuff, their big things first, and then everything else, because the problem is that however long it takes you to respond to emails will fill whatever time you've got available.
Of course.
It's like
all day.
It's like sand. It fills all the gaps if you let it. So you've got to put the big blocks in first. So if you do that, and it was going to vary, but if you know that a minimum of an hour, you're going to be incrementally taking steps towards your big goal. At the end of the month, you'll be 20 hours closer to your goal.
So here's another question with that. During that, let's call it an hour.
Yeah.
All right. Whether it's 90 minutes, half an hour, half a day, whatever. Your hour.
Yeah.
Is your phone off?
Me personally, I have my phone on silent and no notifications all the time, and I have a list of favourite people who I allow to come through.
Emails on your desktop?
I don't. Yes, sometimes is the answer. I'm not doing a huge amount of that forward-looking things because my circumstances have changed. Yeah. However, if I was doing that, I would say no. So
that hour that your hour,
you want to try and minimise your distractions.
Yes, and that's what I'm getting to. So when I do my hour on my hour, my time's Monday mornings.
Yeah.
Okay. You can't get hold of me on a Monday morning.
Mm-hmm.
So my phone stays in the house, and I'm in the office for 2.5 hours on a Monday morning. Mm-hmm. That's when I do my work. I do no client work. I turn the doorbell off. I don't want to be disturbed by the postman, no emails, nothing. And I just immerse myself in planning, strategy, long-term finance, writing copy, whatever it is that's going to move me towards. And at the moment, I would say every Monday for the last month, I've just been planning. Mm-hmm. I have literally just been planning when I'm going to have lunch next July. And I'm not joking. If you were to look at my diary, people listening to this would be going, what? But I've planned every hour I have available. I say July. I've actually done it till April. Okay. And then when we get to February, I'll probably fill in that bit until the summer. But I've been diarising all my golf tournaments, entering the ones that I can. I've been putting in lunch with Kay. Kay and I are going out for lunch on Mondays now together because it's quite nice to do that. So I've been going into her calendar and making sure it's in there and sending her invites so she doesn't forget, because she'll let work distract her.
Yep.
When I'm going to be able to start training again, football matches, everything. Mm-hmm. It sounds really regimented, but it allows me to be really present when I'm doing those things and not be distracted. And I'm planning when I'll have client time, even though I don't know which client will fill that time. The slots are set aside and so on and so forth. So it means then I can just turn up and deliver. And those Mondays that I've got set aside can be completely focused on forward-thinking work.
Yeah.
Stuff that's going to bring me revenue in the future. not today. Stuff that's proactive, to use your term, and not reactive at all. I've got dozens and dozens and dozens of emails in my inbox I'm never going to reply to. Just not going to reply to them. Because it might offend some people, but I don't really care.
Yeah.
Because my success for my family, my clients, my friends, that's the most important thing for me, not random people interrupting that.
Yep. All you're doing, it comes back to that analogy of, you know, the glass jar, and you put your big rocks in first, and then your smaller rocks, and then your sand, and then your water. It's the same thing. You're putting your blocks of time in place, and starting with, here are my personal things, and you've talked extensively in the past about how you do your personal stuff first. And then you're saying, okay, here are my client blocks, and here are our workshop dates, and here's the time that's left in between. That's your email time, or your, you know, your other bits and pieces time, your thinking time.
So I'd really love to know, you know, do you multitask? Not you, Shirley, since we know. But people listening, do you multitask? Let us know, you know, send us a voice message through Spotify or Anchor if you're listening through that. Ping us an email. Yeah, do you multitask? Are you guilty of kind of allowing other people to dictate your day? Do you check your emails first thing in the morning?
I'd love to know how everybody does that.
I don't.
I bet you do sometimes. I want to know how many people have time set aside every day to work on long-term goals.
And
it doesn't matter how much time, and it doesn't actually matter.
Could be 20 minutes.
Yeah, it could be 20 minutes, and it doesn't necessarily have to be every day. Like you said, you've got Monday mornings, but how many people have got regular time every week or every day or however it splits for you?
That is sacrosanct.
That is non-negotiable. This is my time for working on that, and not it comes if I've got time at the end of the day when I've done everything else, because everything else will always take all day.
Yes, completely. And I would also like to know how many people can tell me when they're having lunch
in April next year.